You've heard of Mercury, the king of high-performance outboards. You've heard of Johnson, the fierce rival in the horsepower wars. But here's what'll blow your mind. The fastest outboards of the 1970s didn't all wear those names. Hidden in race pits and marinas were screamers from Yamaha, Suzuki, Chrysler, and even Italy. Engines so quick they could humble the legends. The full story of these rare speed demons. It's even crazier than you think. In 1976, Mercury dropped the 1500 XS, and suddenly every other outboard on the dock looked slow. On paper, it was just an inline six making 155 horsepower. In reality, it was a short-shaft, low-water pickup missile with tuned port timing that let it spin higher than any sane recreational engine should. Mercury didn't even try to hide its intentions. This was a race-bred motor disguised as something you could bolt on a family runabout. The stiffer mounts kept it solid at speed, the louvers on the cowl fed it cool air, and the XS badge wasn't for decoration. On the right lightweight hull, a well-set-up 1500 XS could flirt with 90 miles per hour, which in the 70s was mind-bending for a stock outboard. It wasn't just fast, it was a statement. Owning one said you weren't here to fish. You were here to win the lake. Before we dive in, here's your warning. One of the engines on this list was so fast, so ahead of its time, that it was banned from certain racing classes. And it's not the one you think. Stick around till the very end, because when we get there, the story behind it will change the way you look at outboard history forever. And if you think you can guess which motor it is, drop your pick in the comments now. No peeking ahead. Let's see who's right. By the late 70s, Mercury decided that 175 horsepower just wasn't enough, so they rolled out the 200 V6, and suddenly, speed limits on the water felt optional. This 2.0-liter powerhouse took everything great about the 1750 and cranked it up a notch, delivering a blistering top end with even more punch out of the hole. It was the kind of motor that could turn a mid-size performance hull into a missile. The acceleration pinned you back, and at full song, the 200's roar had that perfect mix of menace and mechanical symphony. Racers and thrill-seekers couldn't get enough, and because it was still a Mercury, it didn't just go fast, it stayed fast. Built tough, it could handle long days wide open without flinching. If you pulled up to the launch ramp with a 200 V6 in '79, you were automatically the boat to beat. OMC built the Johnson Stinger GP with one clear goal: take the fight straight to Mercury's 1500 XS. Under the cowl sat a hot-tuned V4 that pushed a factory-rated 155 horsepower, but the real magic was in its race-ready setup. Short shaft, low water pickup, aggressive porting. This thing was born to run, not to cruise. It thrived in Formula and GP tunnel boat classes, where shaving a second off your lap time could mean victory. The Stinger GP's throttle response was instant, the acceleration neck-snapping, and its willingness to rev high made it a favorite among serious racers. And just like its Mercury rival, it had attitude. The bold orange and white paint job wasn't subtle, it was a warning. If you lined up against a Stinger GP in the 70s, you weren't just racing an engine. You were challenging a reputation built on speed and wins. By the end of the 70s, Johnson decided subtlety was overrated. Enter the 235 V6, the biggest, baddest production outboard they'd ever built. With a massive 2.6-liter block, it delivered a factory-rated 235 horsepower, but anyone who owned one knew it felt like more when you slammed the throttle down. This was an engine for big water domination. Offshore fishermen loved it because it could muscle through rough seas without losing speed, while racers appreciated its raw, no-nonsense power band. The dual-stage reed valves and high-flow exhaust gave it torque for days, and a top end that left smaller motors gasping. Visually, it was unmistakable, towering on the transom with that bold Johnson branding. And when you fired it up, the deep V6 rumble made it clear. The 235 wasn't here to play nice. In 1979, it was the king of the horsepower wars. When Mercury unveiled the 1750 V6 in 1976, it was like they'd taken a muscle car engine, shrunk it, and strapped it to the back of your boat. The 2.0-liter block was a revelation. More cylinders meant more torque, and more torque meant your boat jumped on plane like it had something to prove. This engine wasn't just about brute force, it was smooth, balanced, and reliable enough for long runs in rough water. Offshore racers loved it because it didn't just scream at wide-open throttle, it kept pulling even when the seas turned ugly. And then there was the sound. That deep, throaty V6 growl at idle, climbing to a sharp wail at speed, was pure boat racer candy. In the late 70s, if you wanted to leave the other guy in your wake before he'd even trimmed up, the 1750 V6 was your ticket. The Evanrude Starflight 135 was proof that you didn't need the biggest motor on the lake to have one of the fastest. This high-performance V4 packed 135 horsepower into a relatively lightweight package, making it a favorite for ski racers and sport boat owners who valued speed and agility. Its real strength was the hole shot. Drop the throttle, and the Starflight would yank your boat onto plane in seconds, delivering that exhilarating surge you could feel in your chest. Coupled with a 5,500 RPM redline and Evanrude's durable gear case, it was built to take repeated full-throttle runs without complaint. And it looked the part, too, sleek blue and white styling that matched its crisp, eager personality. In the 70s, if you wanted a reliable outboard that could still embarrass bigger boats, the Starflight 135 was a smart and seriously fun choice. Launched in the late 70s, the Evanrude 200 XP was built for people who thought standard just wasn't enough. This wasn't just a 200 horsepower outboard. It came with factory high compression heads, a tuned exhaust, and a low water pickup, so you could run the motor higher and faster without losing cooling. It was the kind of engine that rewarded bold driving. Slam the throttle, and the XP's torque shoved the hull forward, with a force that could knock loose anything not tied down. Ski racers loved it for its instant pull, and offshore hotshots liked knowing they could hold it wide open all day. Visually, the XP made sure you knew it meant business. Bold graphics, racy lines, and that signature Evanrude growl. In the arms race of late 70s outboards, the 200 XP was one of OMC's hardest-hitting answers. We've already seen some serious horsepower, but trust me, the wildest stories are still ahead. One engine on this list hid a race-winning secret in plain sight, and when you hear it, you'll never look at 70s outboards the same way again. Think you can spot which one it is? Drop your guess in the comments. Chrysler may not be the first name you think of in outboards, but in the 70s they made a serious splash with the 150 Hemi head. Using hemispherical combustion chambers borrowed from their automotive playbook, it breathed better and made more efficient power than most people expected. On paper, it was a respectable 150 horsepower, but it had a punchy mid-range that made it feel stronger than its rating. Performance boaters appreciated its simplicity and torque, even if it didn't have the polish of Mercury or OMC offerings. With its distinctive cowl and unmistakable Chrysler badge, the Hemi head was a conversation starter at any marina. And if you had it tuned right, it could run with the big boys, proving that Chrysler's muscle car DNA could work just as well on water. Not every fast outboard had to be huge. Chrysler's 105 race-tuned model was built for smaller boats and racing classes, where lightweight mattered more than raw horsepower. By tweaking port timing and carburation, Chrysler squeezed surprising performance out of this mid-size motor. In the right lightweight hull, it could snap to top speed with agility that left bigger boats chasing. It was especially popular in local race scenes, where the combination of affordable power and easy maintenance made it a go-to for grassroots competition. While it never grabbed the same headlines as the 150 Hemi head, the 105 proved Chrysler could build something that was both nimble and competitive. It was a reminder that in the 70s, clever tuning could make even a modest engine a serious threat. Yamaha was still finding its footing in the global outboard market in the 70s, but the P-Series 70 showed they were serious about speed. This two-stroke triple wasn't just reliable, it was a screamer, built to rev high and stay there. On small, lightweight hulls, the P-Series 70 could deliver thrilling top speeds, making it a favorite among racers who wanted something different from the usual Mercury or OMC setups. It also gained a reputation for being able to take a beating without complaint. In hindsight, the P-Series was the foundation for Yamaha's later dominance in both racing and recreation. Back then, though, it was a gutsy underdog, quietly carving out wins and turning heads in a Mercury and OMC-dominated world. Introduced in the late 70s, the Yamaha 85A was a bigger, bolder step for the brand. It brought more torque and stronger mid-range acceleration, making it ideal for mid-sized boats and heavier loads. With clean Japanese engineering and a smooth, refined power band, it won over boaters who were tired of temperamental, high-performance motors. The 85A could cruise all day, but when you opened it up, it still had the speed to make you grin. Its understated looks hid the fact that Yamaha was catching up fast in the horsepower game. The 85A proved the company wasn't just dabbling in outboards, they were gearing up to take on the industry heavyweights head-on. Suzuki's DT85 was one of the company's breakout outboards in the late 70s, aimed at proving that Japanese builders could match Western performance standards. This two-stroke twin-carb design had a lively throttle response and a willingness to rev that made it ideal for sport boating. Lightweight for its power, the DT85 could make a modest runabout feel like a racer, especially in protected waters. It earned fans for being both quick and surprisingly fuel-efficient for its day. Though Suzuki was still a small player in the outboard world at the time, the DT85 was a sign of things to come. A competitive, durable motor that hinted at the brand's future as a serious performance contender. In the late 70s, Suzuki upped its game with the DT100, a bigger, bolder version of its proven DT85. With triple carburetors and improved port timing, it delivered a strong 100 horsepower that felt lively on the throttle and smooth at cruising speeds. This was an engine for boaters who wanted more punch without jumping into the heavyweight V6 category. Paired with a light fiberglass hull, it offered exciting acceleration and a top end that could hang with some larger motors. The DT100 was also a quiet achiever. It didn't get the same media hype as Mercury or OMC's big guns, but owners appreciated its mix of performance and Japanese reliability. For many, it was the perfect bridge between mid-range fun and serious speed. Scott McCulloch's 75 racing outboard was a rare sight by the 1970s, but in small boat racing circles, it still had a fearsome reputation. This triple-cylinder two-stroke was lightweight, rev-happy, and surprisingly durable for its era. In APBA racing classes, it often outperformed expectations, sneaking wins against bigger, heavier motors. The secret was its power-to-weight ratio. On the right tunnel hull, it leapt onto plane almost instantly. While the brand itself faded from the mainstream, the 75 Racing became a cult favorite. To those in the know, seeing one at the starting line meant you were in for a fight. At just 50 horsepower, the Toh Hatzu racing outboard might not sound impressive, but in the 70s it was a terror in its class. Tuned specifically for small tunnel hulls and hydroplanes, it could push these featherweight boats to speeds over 60 miles per hour. Its compact size and screaming top end made it a joy for skilled drivers who valued precision and agility over raw brute force. In tight, technical race courses, the Toh Hatzu 50 could outmaneuver much larger engines. It was also famously tough, able to handle the abuse of constant wide-open throttle without giving up. For entry-level racers, it was a ticket to competitive speed without breaking the bank. Built in Sweden and later tied to Volvo Penta, the Archimedes Penta 100 was a refined European performance outboard. It had a smooth-running two-stroke triple that delivered 100 horsepower with a focus on torque and reliability. In European offshore racing, it was respected for its endurance, able to maintain high speeds over long distances without overheating or wearing out gear cases. Rare in the US, the Penta 100 is now a collector's gem, representing a different approach to performance outboards. Less raw aggression, more precision engineering. Another Swedish contender, the Cresant 75, was light, compact, and eager to rev. It didn't have the brute force of larger outboards, but in the right hands, it was lightning quick. Favored in Scandinavian race scenes, it could push small craft to impressive speeds while sipping fuel compared to bigger motors. Its lightweight made it ideal for boats where agility was more important than sheer horsepower. Today, it's remembered fondly by enthusiasts who appreciate the understated charm and surprising speed of these Swedish-built motors. Italy's Selva built some of the most stylish and underrated outboards of the 1970s, and the 70 Racing was their performance flagship. This two-stroke triple was tuned for high RPM and came with sleek European cowling designs that looked as fast as they ran. Primarily used in European competition, the Selva 70 was agile, reliable, and quick enough to keep pace with much better-known brands. It thrived on light racing hulls, where its free-revving nature could really shine. Though it never became a global powerhouse, the Selva 70 Racing remains a fascinating piece of 70s outboard history, a reminder that speed came from all corners of the world. So there you have it, the 18 fastest outboards of the 1970s, from legendary horsepower kings to rare imports that still make boat racers grin. These engines weren't just machines, they were statements of speed, innovation, and pure adrenaline. If you enjoyed this blast from the past, hit that like button, subscribe for more high-octane boating history, and let us know in the comments. Which of these 70s speed demons would you want on your transom?